spoken to police officers, lawyers, and prisoners. Those are three of the groups you've seen today. So mine is totally from the emotional side. I know many of you may be looking up here going, okay, here we go. Here comes another mother's speech. And my own mother has given me this speech and I don't want to hear it again. But here's what I'm asking you to do. All of you are somebody's son or daughter. All of you are somebody's brother or sister, perhaps. Some of you may not have that. You're a cousin, you're a friend. We have lots of different hats on our head, lots of different roles. So I have a two-part story. Two stories that have happened in my life that have impacted my life. And those are the stories I want to share with you. And I want to share how it's affected me personally and how it's affected my family. So I am the youngest of 5 children. I had 3 older brothers and an older sister. And my sister was my absolute idol. She was everything. This is a picture of my sister. Her name is Peggy. And Peggy's 9 years older than me. But she never treated me as if I was a bratty kid sister. She always treated me with lots of respect. She always treated me like a buddy and a friend. So it was awesome to have her. She took me on trips. She got married when I was in high school, and she moved with her husband out to California. And every summer I would go to California and spend the summer with her. I did that for 3 years. So the last summer I went to visit her, it was right before I went away to college, and she'd given birth to a little baby boy, a boy named Marty. So I was able to enjoy the whole family at that point. I came back home to Virginia. I actually grew up in Fairfax County, Virginia, right near Clifton. So I came home and then went off to school down in southern Virginia, down near Tennessee. So first time going away from home without having not knowing anyone. I was about 4.5, 5 hours away. Nobody from my high school was going down there. So I was nervous. Plus it's a whole another adventure, leaving the world of high school and going on to college. So I was down there about a week, and one of my brothers and his wife walk in to the cafeteria where I'm eating lunch, and I'll never forget the moment. I had my tray, and I was walking through the cafeteria, and I look up, and in the door comes one of my brothers, and I'm like, what is going on? I've been here a week. And what's going on is that my sister, on her way to work at 6 in the morning, she was hit by a young woman who had been driving drunk. She was trying to get home from a late night party, and she shouldn't have been driving. She hit my sister head on. My sister died on the scene. Her neck snapped. She died instantly. So, needless to say, I was pretty traumatized. Not only did I come home for the services, she was buried here in Virginia. I came home for a week, and all the relationships started to form at school, so I had a mess happen at school, but I lost my only sister. This was 34 years ago that this happened to me. To this day, I can't stand to be around 2 sisters in a room because I'm just so jealous and I'm just so envious. And there are times when some of my friends will talk about the horrible things their sisters did, or they'll badmouth a family member, and in my head I'm thinking to myself, at least you have them. My sister hasn't seen me graduate from college. She hasn't seen me get married. She hasn't seen my 4 beautiful children. Since I was 18 years old, she hasn't participated in anything. She hasn't seen my ups or my downs. So that's been hard. And as I said, she's my only sister. love my brothers, but she and I had something special. Ironically, I went back to college and ended up failing out that first year. I started drinking. I did a lot of drinking and decided not to go to classes. And that certainly didn't help my cause any. The consequences for that were that I was on probation for my entire college career. I ended up getting my act together in my sophomore year and graduating from college, but it was a very rough beginning. I wasted that complete first year. Her husband, he, needless to say, was a mess. Also the son, who at the time that she passed, he was only 6 months old. He was later diagnosed with autism. I've always believed the autism was brought on by the loss of his mother at such a young age. I'm not a doctor, and there's no research or scientific evidence that would support that, but he seemed like a pretty normal kid, pretty normal baby to me. But anyway, he's in his 30s now, and he's doing well, but he never got to know his mother. So as I said, if we fast forward a little bit, I'm also a mom, and I have 4 children. I have 3 boys and 1 girl, and Taylor, this is Taylor. Taylor went to Battlefield High School in Prince William County, and he would be 26 today. He died 8 years ago, so he would be real close to your all's ages, probably right in the middle there. Taylor is my second child of the 4, and Taylor asked us one night if he could go to Jiffy Lube Live, it was Nissan Pavilion at that point, and see the 311 concert. And from there, he was going with a bunch of friends. And from there, he was going to go to a friend's house and stay the night. So we live very close to Jiffy Lube Live, so we were like, sure, that's fine, you can do that. So, so he went to the concert, and he went back to a friend's house. And the next morning, I'm actually getting ready to go out the door, and there's a knock on my door, and it's a police officer and the friend's mother. And the officer tells me that there's been a car accident, and it happened that morning. And it's an unidentified male. There was no identification at the scene, and it was the friend's car, and the friend was at the home. So the mother, who was there, said, I'm certain it's Taylor because I did a head count of the boys in the house, and he's not there. So I end up going over to Fairfax Hospital, and in fact it was Taylor. Taylor was on life support, and we've all seen the movies where you see people in life support and, you know, that rhythmic breathing, the machine, you can hear the pulse of the fan going up and down, and you can watch their chest rise and fall. I can promise you it's nothing like you're seeing on a TV screen. It is horrible. It's the most horrible experience. Also, he, of course, had been in a car accident, and he was bloodied up. He had blood everywhere. He had broken ribs, he had a broken thumb, he had lacerations on his face. Apparently what happened is he was headed out the door at 6 in the morning. They'd been partying all night long. And nobody knows where Taylor was going, but at 6 in the morning he decided he needed to go somewhere. So he took his friend's car, and the friends live on a 2-lane country road that's very windy. It's Kettle Run Road near Patriot High School, if any of you are familiar with that area. He was driving far too fast, and he didn't get more than a mile away before he was in the accident. He rounded a sharp hairpin turn over to the left. He misjudged because he was going too fast. He went up on the embankment and the car proceeded to roll. He came out of the sunroof. So he ended up outside of the car when the car finally came to rest. I guess fortunately for us, there were 2 women who were out for an early morning bike ride. And when they came upon Taylor, they called the ambulance, and Taylor ended up getting helicoptered over to Fairfax Hospital. So I arrived at Fairfax Hospital that morning, and all the doctors are telling me is we just have to wait and see. We'll keep him on life support right now. At the end of the evening, we're going to try to take him off life support and see if he can breathe on his own. So stayed there all day, and they ended up taking the life support off, and Taylor did end up responding. He started breathing on his own. As a matter of fact, within 2 days from the accident, we were actually moved up to another room in the hospital, and we were doing laps in the hospital. He was getting his strength back. His lacerations were starting to improve. He was still sore, but by all accounts, he looked good. One thing that bothered me is Taylor being 18 years old. For one, it was never going to happen to him. You know, I was too dramatic. I was the mother that was very dramatic, telling him this could happen. I had talked to him about drinking and driving before. And, you know, it was always, Mom, I'm fine. I'm only hurting myself. Well, later in my talk, I'll show you how he didn't just hurt himself. He hurt the entire family and lots of friends. But as he started to get better, I kept getting the feeling that he didn't really remember or identify with what had happened to him. And I thought, damn, I wish I had taken a picture when he was on life support, because I wanted something tangible that I could say, you know, this was you. This was how bad off you were. But, you know, at the time, of course, I didn't think about it. He would. So as things start to improve, his accident was on a early morning Saturday. We think that, you know, by Thursday of that week, we think by Saturday morning they're going to release him and we'll be able to bring him home. So I get a call Friday morning from the hospital. And it was like 5 in the morning, and they say, we've had to put Taylor back into the trauma ICU. He got up in the night and had to go to the bathroom, and he coughed. And when he coughed, he started bleeding. And it scared him. That's how they presented it to me. So they said, we put him back down into the trauma ICU, and we're going to have to do a scope and see what's going on and, you know, where that blood's coming from. So I rush out to Fairfax Hospital, and I sit with him for a couple of hours. And at this point, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to take my picture. Now I'm going to get a picture. So there's the last picture I ever took of my son. He's back in ICU. He's completely hooked up again with all the life support stuff. You can see he's still bleeding out of his lungs. You can see the tube there with with the blood. They're having to drain it out of his lungs. So that was the last picture I got of him. Right before they asked me to leave the room, I said, "Do you think he knows that I'm here?" And she said, "Oh, I think he does." And she said, "Grab his hand." And I had been holding his hand, and she was talking to him and saying, "Squeeze her hand, squeeze your mom's hand." And it took a couple minutes, but eventually Taylor squeezed my hand. So that made me feel really good. So I ended up, they asked me to go to the waiting room, and I'm in the waiting room, and there's other people there, and there's another a set of parents there whose son is also in trauma ICU. He was in a quad accident, and they said, well, his sister is back with him now. Well, the sister comes flying into the waiting room and says, they've told us all to leave because there's a code blue or code red. I don't even remember which one now. But all of us knew that meant something serious was happening. So all of us perked up and said, which room was it? And she said, well, it was to the right of my brother. So, I breathed a sigh of relief because Taylor was on the left of the brother. A couple minutes later, a doctor comes to the door of the waiting room, looks directly at me, and ushers me to go into the little room. And the little room is just easy chairs and boxes of tissues and a telephone. And he did inform me that they had done everything that they could do, that Taylor, when he had come out of the sunroof, he had ingested a piece of glass, and that piece of glass lodged in his lung, and when he got up that morning, it dislodged that glass, and he ended up bleeding to death. So Taylor died 6 days after his accident. When we thought we were bringing him home, we thought he was on the other side. So, for me, I know I have 3 other children, but I wanted badly to hurt myself that first year. I ended up going into counseling, and I stayed in counseling for the entire year because I was afraid that I was either going to hurt myself or I was just going to drive away and leave my entire family and friends behind because I was that unhappy. Here's an 18-year-old kid that had just graduated high school. He was just getting ready to start college. He was just getting ready to start his life. And he made a decision that cost him his life. His oldest brother was in college down at Old Dominion University, and Matthew refused to come home. He said, Virginia is not for me. I can't stand it up in Northern Virginia. If you want to see me, you're going to have to travel down here to see me because I'm not going back to that area. His youngest brother, he was only 10 at the time, so he kind of fed off the emotions of the rest of us. But he never really even got a chance to know Taylor because he was just 10. His sister, she has probably been the most impacted by it. She went to the same high school as Taylor, and she had lots of the same friends. So Kristen still had 1 year to go in high school. Actually, that's not true. She had 3 years to go when he passed. And she had driver's ed to go through. She had teachers that had Taylor. Everybody knew Taylor. She took a marketing class that she had to plan and design her wedding. She turned that project in 2 weeks late because she couldn't plan and design her wedding where her brother wasn't going to be there. Kristen actually has developed anxiety and panic attacks since that time. She now sleeps with her phone on her pillow right next to her with the volume up. Because if somebody has an emergency, she needs to know about it and she wants to make sure she gets the message. She's had friends bully her, and when they bully her, they use her brother as the weapon. You know, saying that Taylor essentially committed suicide. You know, I guess in some ways you could say that he did, but he made a bad decision, and the consequences are that he left behind a grieving family, and obviously he's not around to enjoy the rest of his life. Lost my train of thought. Give me a minute. Taylor's funeral. You know, Taylor was also a kid. He was not shy. There was nothing shy about this kid at all. He was funny. He was likable. He was outgoing personality. But he never thought he had, like, true friends. He never thought that he had that bond with people. You know, he felt badly about himself in many occasions. So we had the funeral in Gainesville. That's where we live. And at the viewing, we had 525 signatures sign the guest book. That's how many people came to pay their respects to Taylor. The church was absolutely packed. There was not a seat open in the house. We were at the Methodist church there on Linton Hall Road. The whole place was packed. He never would have dreamed that he impacted that many people in his life. There are people today. One of his friends actually made keychain buttons, and they made 500 of them, and these were out. And people have these all over their cars. I've seen them in the area. So he impacted a lot of people, and he had no idea what kind of impact he had on people. But, you know, I would challenge you all that I think you all impact probably hundreds of people as well, and maybe you don't realize it, but I can promise you that you do. Kind of back to that whole roles thing. We all wear a whole lot of hats, and there's a lot of people that care about you and want the best for you. So, he made a bad decision and paid the consequences for it. And left behind grieving family, extended family, 525 people who came to the funeral. That's my story. And I'm welcome to have any questions.